My Adventures with Superman. That's right, folks. It's a new Superman animated series. It's been in development for a while. We heard about it a couple years ago. Was it going to go to Adult Swim? It sounded like it. It was kind of like when they announced that also like Batman Cape Crusader was being developed. That's not out yet. This one must have been further along. But here we go. A new Superman cartoon that is precisely the kind of Superman cartoon we needed today. It is so light and pleasant and smiley and bubbly and gets the character right for the most part. But it's so cool to have this exist, you know? We are entering a new era of Superman on television, of Superman on film, of Superman having another presence in the DC universe. He's back to it, back on top. So taking that basic concept of his life, the origin story, working in Metropolis, the Daily Planet, there are so many ways you can go about that story now because we have so much history to go about it. What if we took that basic concept, twisted it a little bit enough where it now feels like it's an anime, and who knew that's exactly what this character needed to be celebrated by a new generation. I never would have called it, but it's pretty cool that it happened. Superman is an anime. My Adventures of Superman is very anime inspired. The aesthetic, the voice movements, everything like that. The way we portray some of the characters, it's very much anime inspired. And I can't complain about that. I am not a guy who watches a ton of anime. I just don't have the, not even patience. I have a bunch of other stuff going on. I just haven't had the time to sit down and delve into it. But I like Superman and I'm always willing to try everything of Superman. It takes a little bit of an adjustment. You're like, I'm not used to seeing this character act this way. I'm not used to seeing the DC Universe act this way or the romance act this way. But as soon as you settle into it, and you settle into it very quick, and maybe even quicker if you are somebody who has watched a lot of American-produced anime, that kind of vibe, I think you'll like settle into it quicker. Because I know people who don't normally read comic books or are interested in Superman who've said this is a really good show. So I guess this is the exact kind of thing you need for like a wider audience appeal. A lot of people read manga, a lot of people watch anime, take the character, make it into that format, and it works well. This is a really good iteration of the character. It's very modern, very fresh, very flirty. A huge chunk of this show is just a flirty Clark being goofy and silly with a young Lois Lane. And somewhere in the middle is the third wheel, Jimmy Olsen. It's great. A Superman project that is properly showing you the trio that is Clark, Lois, and Jimmy is always cool to see. It feels like in other interpretations of the character, especially like in animation and in movies, Jimmy Olsen doesn't get to join the cast as like a mainstay. But here, he's a contemporary with these two. They're all interns at the Daily Planet. They're all working together as equals. They want to solve the Superman mystery. They want to solve the larger mysteries of the DC universe. It's really exciting. And that's what this is. It's an origin story, but it goes about it in a different way than a lot of Superman origin stories do. Because Clark becomes Superman without knowing his history. He learns about his history throughout the season, and it goes in different ways than you're expecting. It is very updated, very anime inspired, where certain villains, certain parts of the history change themselves to fit like this kind of like overarching narrative of a show that could go on forever. There's nothing wrong about that. Like, we are doing enough where you're like, yeah, that's the Kryptonian stuff, that's the modern stuff, we know what that character is going to become, we know how that's going to play out, we know the history to this organization. All of that works. None of those things are bad. And the voice acting, it's very fun. Jack Quaid is a guy who has, I think, proven himself to be a very good voice actor. His work on Lower Decks is really strong. He's not the first voice you think of when it comes to like a Clark Kent Superman, but he plays like this young, schlubby guy who knows what he wants to say but doesn't know how to get it out perfectly really well. Alice Lee is also a really good Lois Lane. She delivers a fantastic, phenomenal performance, like just incredible stuff. And the young man who is playing Jimmy Olsen delivers a great performance too. And then you got a bunch of like supporting cast members that you're like, really? That's what we're doing with that character? Names that you'd be familiar with, names that you might not be familiar with, but everyone is delivering a great thing. For some reason, Parnell Slade just stands out to me as like, that is a pairing I wouldn't have thought of, but this is also like a young Slade, so I guess that's something you could explore and play with. Like, it's a young DC universe. a lot of the DC universe is centered around the identity of Superman. So we see the origin of that. Here are the companies that are going to be big companies. Here are the characters that are going to become big characters. Here are the villains. If I had one major issue with the show, and it's not even like a major issue, I should say, it's a lot of like the start of the show becomes very tech-based with characters who should have different types of power sets in comic books and other mediums now rely on technology. It's not a big issue, but it is something that you notice right away. But again, we're leaning into like this is like a city that is like booming with new technologies and new powers. So having it be from like one source isn't an issue. Like it's just hard for me, who has read comic books and these characters for decades, to sit with that. It takes a minute, and I sit with it well. And the interpretations, none of them are like egregiously annoying. There's some very drastically different ones, but they're not with characters you're like, that's a fundamental change to their identity. It's stuff you're accepting and you're aware of and you're not upset by. And this starts off just kind of like Superman's becoming a thing, and then it goes into actually there's a larger universe at play. Actually, there's a whole history behind the Kryptonian heritage stuff and things happening on Earth. Actually, this secret shadow organization worked with other stuff to like set portals into different dimensions. Actually, Mr. Mxyzptlk's the same one from every iteration, and there's a huge multiverse at stake here, and we're actually part of the larger multiverse. You're like, whoa, okay. This is season 1, and this is the kind of stuff we'd play out over longer periods. If we were doing like a 26 episode show, we'd have more filler. But by the time we get to like episode 7, it's like, actually the multiverse, and here's the Council of Loises, and you're like, yeah, I guess it would happen that quick. We shoo away from a bunch of stuff really quick too. Like we do some reveals really quick, we do some romances really quick, and that's fine. The entire time you're watching it, though, you got a smile on your face. You're cringing with these characters when they're being cringy. You're happy when they're happy. It's a well-executed Superman show. It's the kind of thing we needed right now. This is the type of program that can reinvigorate some life into the franchise. It's got new eyes on it. I personally know people who are watching this that don't read stuff, and that is just amazing. That's like makes me so happy that this type of Superman, this type, he's young, he's happy, he's flirty, he's goofy, can get people excited for this property. That's really cool. It's no longer just like the brooding husk of a guy. It's just he's happy, he's trying, he's got friends and family he loves, he's got a girl he likes. What more do you need to make this character likable? Not much. You throw in the anime mix in there, some great music, some great action, you do something special. And the fact that it all works for Superman, well, it's not surprising. It's just really great and really pleasant to see that it works. It's really fun. The show's really fun. That's the best thing I could say about it. So, My Adventures of Superman, Season 1. Sometime we're going to be getting a Season 2. I don't know when, but it might happen. I am going to give a 9 out of 10. So thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.